Greetings, Guardians. My name is Pyro here. Stop me if you've heard this. Mountaintop is really good. Stop me if you've also heard this. Wendigo is... I don't know. I don't know if it's good or not. That seems to be the general consensus when talking about these two weapons. Now, I'm going to compare them in this video. Normally, that's something that you would not do. You wouldn't compare an energy weapon to a power weapon because the power weapon should be better. But because Mountaintop is so strong, that's not necessarily the case. Now, that's not to say that Wendigo is bad by any means, because it's definitely not. It certainly has its place, as we'll discuss in this video. But one of these two is definitely better than the other, and that's what I would like to identify, because Bungie is reducing the grind for both of these quests, meaning they will be easier to obtain, so I want you guys to know which one you should focus on if you have limited playing time. And I believe these requirement changes will be available on August 27th, so let's go ahead and start the video. But first, we need to break some fucking pots. Starting with the Wendigo GL3, its two main perks are auto-loading holster and explosive light. Explosive light grants bonus damage to your next grenade, stacking up to 6 times each time you pick up an orb. Now, one of the neatest things about Wendigo is that its perk, Explosive Light, will charge and stack up passively, meaning you don't actually need to have the weapon out and be using it in order to collect the orbs to get Explosive Light's bonus damage. You can have the weapon stowed, meaning offhand, and as long as you're collecting orbs, it will go ahead and pick them up. They will keep these orbs, and it will keep that buff until you die. So that's really nice. Combine that with auto-loading holster, and Wendigo is basically always ready to go with Explosive Light. That's really handy. As I said, Explosive Light stacks up to 6 times. This is because Wendigo has a 6-round magazine. If you were to expand the magazine to 7 via a backup mag mod, you will not get a 7th Explosive Light charge. Regardless of how many magazine rounds you can stuff into Wendigo, it will cap at 6. With Explosive Light active on our simulated ogre friend here, you can see that we have 2 damage numbers that pop up. The main one being 145,971 damage with a secondary damage number of 13,135 damage, giving us a total of 159,106 damage per shot. When Explosive Light is not active and Wendigo is just a basic-ass bitch, it does 55,875 plus 37,515 for a grand total of 93,372. That is a difference of 65,734 damage less than with Explosive Light active, or about 70% less damage. With my armor set, I can carry 17 rounds in total of Wendigo ammo, and it takes me about 8.5 seconds to get rid of every single one of those rounds using an instant reload like Rally Barricade or Lunafaction Boots. Now that we have all these numbers, we can use some basic math to find Wendigo GL3's DPS potential. The first 6 rounds that we fire with our Wendigo will give us a total damage of 954,636, with the subsequent 11 rounds that follow without Explosive Light giving us a total of 1,027,092 damage, for a total for all 17 rounds of 1,981,728. It takes 8.5 seconds to fire all 17 rounds using instant reload like Rally Barricade or Lunafactions, and if you take that 1.9 million damage and divide it by 8.5 seconds, you are left with 233,144. The Wendigo GL3 DPS, or damage per second, is 233,144 if you start with 6 rounds of Explosive Light. And now we get to do all that same stuff again with Mountaintop. But first... A mountaintop is a lot easier to figure out a DPS number because mountaintop is just flat across the board. You don't have to factor in any special buffs or anything like that. Mountaintop is special because number one, its projectile shoots in a straight line very, very quickly with high velocity, and number two, it has spike grenades, which are pretty hot right now. Mountaintop does 71,112 damage plus 53,110 damage, giving us a total of 124,222 per shot. Mountaintop does fire just a tiny bit slower than Wendigo, clocking in at 12.7 seconds for me to get rid of all 19 rounds of ammo that I can carry with the armor set that I have. Time for more math. Each round with spike grenades fired from Mountaintop does 124,222 damage. Multiply that by 19 rounds, which is how much I can carry in total with my armor set, and you have a total damage output of 2,360,218. If we take the 12.7 seconds to fire all 19 rounds and divide that by our damage, we have a total DPS, or damage per second, of 185,843. So what this all means is that the Wendigo GL3 actually has a higher damage per second output than the Mountaintop does, but the Wendigo can only sustain that damage for 8.5 seconds. After 8.5 seconds, you're doing exactly 0 damage with Wendigo because you're out of ammo. Mountaintop, on the other hand, while having the lower DPS, can sustain its lower DPS for 12.7 seconds, totaling more damage than the Wendigo does altogether. Now, you don't actually pass Wendigo's damage output with Mountaintop until about the final 4 or 3 rounds that you fire from Mountaintop. So while Wendigo does win the DPS in the short term, Mountaintop wins damage over time. Now, if you were to combine both of these weapons, meaning you go Wendigo first, burn all your ammo, switch to Mountaintop, and burn all your ammo, it would take you about 20 seconds to go through all the ammo of both of these weapons, and you would be left with a total damage output of 4.3 million. Giving you sustained DPS, or damage per second, of 217,000 damage over the course of those 20 seconds. That is an insane amount of DPS. Now, one thing that I do want to go ahead and point out here real quick is all of these numbers are based on ideal scenarios. You have Wendigo that has been collecting orbs of light, and you're starting with these 6 explosive light rounds before you even start firing. You have full ammo on Wendigo, all 17 rounds. Everything's ready to go, and you have an instant reload, rally barricade, or lunafaction rift. Same goes for Mountaintop. You also have that instant reload. If you take any of these variables away, you have drastically different numbers. If you were to use Wendigo and do a DPS test for 17 rounds fired without any of them being explosive light, we wouldn't even be talking. This wouldn't even be worthy of a video because Mountaintop would just absolutely destroy it. Another big deciding factor in which one of these is going to be better than the other one, you have to keep in mind, Mountaintop uses special ammo, which is much more abundant than heavy ammo or power ammo. However, let's say that you're doing an activity that happens to have arc singe and heavyweight. Then in that case, you absolutely want to use Wendigo. But I think that one of the biggest things when comparing these two is that they're both legendaries. You can run both of them at the same time, and you can have that 4.3 million damage over the course of 20 seconds with 217,000 sustained DPS, which is just absurd. So in conclusion, with Bungie lowering the requirements to get both of these weapons, I'd say that they are both 100% worthy of your grind. Not only is Mountaintop and Wendigo both very good right now, but there's a good chance that Spike Grenades is going to get some kind of nerf next season, so when that happens, Wendigo might be the better option because Spike Grenades might be trash. I mean, you never know with these things, and the last thing that you want to do is put this off until next season, have new content to play in Shadowkeep, but have to go back and do this nonsense because you procrastinated. So, like I said, to just kind of sum everything up, I think they're both worth having, and that they're both worth the grind. And on that note, this video is going to come to an end. If you enjoyed it, click like. If you're new to the channel, click subscribe. And if you're already subscribed, I fucking love you. Thank you guys so much for watching, and take care.